Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of In My Experience. My name is Wes, and today we're talking about the elephant in the room, and that is me. Yes, talking about being fat. I want to give a trigger warning at the start of this because I'm not going to be pulling any punches as far as what I think about being fat, the societal look on it, as well as other fat people, because I do have a more harsh opinion on all of it. So, if this is something you're interested in, buckle in, and we will. I'm not sure how long this is going to go. I'm recording this off the top of the head. I don't have a script. I don't have anything like that. We're just going. So, I'm fat, as you can tell. I have been for a lot of my life. There was a point in time where I had lost around 100 pounds. If I find a good picture, I'll post it here, right here, somewhere right here. And I was the happiest that I could think of in my life when I was smaller. It was great. Everything else in my life was better. Work was easier. Life was easier. Navigating it was easier. Food tasted better because it was more rewarding. Sex was better. Energy levels were higher. I wanted to do things. I didn't feel depressed. I didn't feel anxious. I didn't feel any of those things. It was awesome. And then I did the thing that happens to a lot of people who are overweight and then lose weight. I gained it back. And guess what? It was my fault. I'm always blown away when I come across people who make excuses for why they're overweight. The only excuse is you just let it happen. You I don't get it, right? The only reason why people are fat is because they let themselves be fat. I thought everyone was on the same page with that. I don't know. I mean, I know that there's some people who really have like problems medically where, they're more prone to weight gains and more prone to not being able to lose weight, but the majority of fat people aren't that. And usually all their health problems come from being fat. So, I let myself go. I stopped going to the gym. I stopped eating good. I got into a job that I hated. That made me depressed. The depression made me less interested in working out, less interested in taking care of myself, and it snowballed to where we are at today, where I haven't taken care of myself for a while. And it sucks. It does. I'm at the heaviest I have ever been in my life in this video. Right this second. It sucks. It's depressing. Makes me sad. It makes me a lot of things. It's it's hard to do stuff, but it's the reality. I did this to myself. No one else did. And I guess the reason why I wanted to make this video is to kind of share experiences that I've had. I do want to talk about fat shaming because I do think it is very silly, but we'll get into that. I also want to get into the idea of being overweight as an alternative lifestyle. I've heard that discussion a lot, which is also a little strange. And I want to really get into what causes long-term obesity, at least in my experience. This is my experience. And since I am fat, I feel like I have a thing or two to say about it. So, first thing, I want to talk about fat shaming, right? I see a lot of debate on whether or not fat shaming is helpful. I think that it is a person by person case, and I'm willing to say that the absolute majority of people it does not help. And here's why. Most fat people are going to be depressed because they're fat. Bagging on them for it isn't going to do anything. It's really not. All it's going to do is make them want to recluse even more into them not going out of their house or them not being active. You don't want to be around people. Like, that's something that most fat people don't enjoy. I mean, no, I'm stereotyping, of course, at least from my experience and my experience with other people who are. You start to gain these things like you really do think that everyone's like staring at you or making fun of you when you go out, when in reality, most people aren't. And if they are, it really doesn't mean anything. You end up reclusing into your own ways of, making excuses not to go out and to be active. It's either this or that. In reality, it's because you're probably depressed, like me. And I think fat shaming can help in some cases where it's like, I don't know, hey, like, I guess what I'm saying is like I don't think fat shaming is ever a good idea. I think it also puts negative outlooks in people's lives and negative thoughts potentially that could even lead to a buildup of too many negative thoughts builds up to one thing. We all know what it is. I don't want to mention it here because I don't think YouTube likes it, but it definitely doesn't help. What helps the most is if you're genuinely worried about someone in your life that is fat, or you see someone who is, and you just can't hold back your arrogant urge to make sure to let them know that they're fat, maybe have a constructive conversation instead. Maybe tell them that you're worried about them and you want them to live longer so you don't have to go to their funeral or they don't have to waste their potential. Maybe have those hard conversations instead of shaming people. Well, shaming is not going to do anything. I see a lot of people who are like, well, if we shame smokers, why can't we shame fat people? From my understanding, the reason why we shame smokers is because of secondhand smoke. And that does also affect other people. Me being fat only affects what? Your perception on my looks. If you're that worried about it, you're probably someone I don't personally want to be around anyways, but what am I offending? If you're that self-conscious as well that, looking at someone else who isn't in your attractiveness scale, maybe that's a you problem. I know being fat is a me problem. Trust me, I know, I'm aware. I've very, very few times have I ever seen fat shaming really help. It helped Tom Segura. Shout out to him. He said he was tired of waking up every day, people calling him fat. And it does. Over time, it builds up. But there's also a thing, I'm not an expert in any field, but, in certain studies, there's this thing called labeling theory, right? Where pretty much the study goes, if at a young age, if you start calling someone a thief, whether it's wrong or right, their whole life they're going to think they're a thief until they just become a thief because that's what's expected of them. If you just keep calling someone fat, they're just going to be, oh, I guess I'm just the fat fuck. No one cares about me. It's true. I've I've personally never really experienced too much fat shaming. I think it's because I put myself in groups of people who aren't really worried about it. I'm also a little bit more confrontational if someone actually in real life is talking shit in that manner because I do find it to be really silly. But that's neither here nor there. I just think that if I know people who are more sensitive about it, and I do think that if you're shaming them, you're not doing any good. So why are you doing it? Are you doing it to be funny? Like, I'm a jokester. I love making fun of how fat I am. It's one of my best comedy bits. They call me Girthquake. Like I've lived all of these jokes, right? Not everyone's like me. Not everyone can look in the mirror and laugh. There's people who are really struggling mentally with it. I struggle with it mentally on a different way, but there are people who you say something rude to them and they're gonna dwell on it for a long time, and I don't think it's gonna be beneficial. And I think I just lack the other side, right? Because I'm not fat, and I don't want to say that. I'm not fat, or excuse me, I'm fat. I'm not skinny, so I don't see the other side. But I just don't understand what is to gain from fat shaming for someone who's not fat. Because if you care about someone, you would want to have that conversation, right? That genuine, hey, I don't want to see you die young. I don't want to see you deal with health problems. I don't want to see you have diabetes. I don't want to see you have all these things. If you need help, if you need someone to go to the gym with, if you need a routine, like whatever it is, let me know. Like I feel like those are the conversations that you should be having if you really are that worried about it. But I am willing to bet that most people aren't that worried about it. So why do it? It's funny. Good fat joke, yeah. I get it. It's makes you feel better about yourself. I mean, I used to watch Jersey Shore because of how stupid the people are on that show, and it made me feel better about my intelligence. I get it. But at what point is it too much? You know? I saw the Twitch clip floating around of someone making the joke about putting fat people, like having fat only sections and stuff like that. Funny joke. Funny joke. But then you read the comments of people like, we should really do this. It's like, for what reason? Kind of sucks. Now, with this all being said, right, I am also on the side, though, that doesn't understand why people think it's okay to be fat. I don't think it is. It's the worst part of my life. 100%. 1,000%. So I don't understand. Like, I'm totally for people being confident and being comfortable in their own skin, right? Plus size modeling isn't an issue. What I do think is an issue is glorifying people who are overweight and making it seem like it's an okay thing to be. Because all it's doing is hurting yourself. I don't think you should strive to be overweight, right? We should all strive to be healthy as a society. I don't think fat shaming is the way to get people to do that. I think genuine concern, changing our food here in America, is another thing that needs to be looked at, because by God, is it an atrocity. If you believe in deeper stuff, good way to control people is if they're all fat and overweight and depressed, but it's a different conversation for a different day. I see a lot of people who preach body positivity, and I agree. We should definitely all be positive and confident in ourselves for as much as we can. It only helps the mental state. But we shouldn't be glorifying wanting to be fat. I promise you, it's not what it's made out to be. It's not fun. Do I eat food all the time? Yeah. Do I eat food that tastes good all the time? Yeah. Is it worth it? No. And this is the biggest thing, right? Is like, could I tell you what I ate 3 days ago? No. Was it shitty for me? Yeah. So why didn't I just make the healthy decision? I think for me, it comes down to a couple things. For sure. I am super depressed. And with that, I end up just sitting here at this spot that you see, just from a different angle, working on videos, playing games, because it's an escape. And I've let it go for a long time. I've been escaping for too long. And it sucks. I'm not a person who likes resolutions. I think it's stupid to make resolutions. Unless you're a business. If you're a business, make resolutions, but they're just called goals. You should always be evolving your goals every single. You should evaluate your goals every day. You should work on goals every week, every month, every year. Like, don't make resolutions, but if it's if that's your thing, like, you should always just be healthier. You know, I'm a person who knows a lot about how to get skinny. I've done it before, but it's not about getting skinny. It's about changing the lifestyle that you have to do. If you're listening to this and you're also overweight, it's not easy. If you've never lost the weight before, it's not easy. Otherwise, everyone would just be skinny. You know, and everyone wants to make an excuse. Excuses are like assholes. They stink, and we all have them. You know, I say I'm depressed, but mostly I'm depressed because I'm fat. I'm fat because I'm depressed. I eat because I'm depressed, and the food gives me that instant gratification of tasting good, and then I regret it afterwards. And, you know, it's just this weird cycle that I can't get out of. I don't know what it is. You know, I daydream every day about being skinny, which is crazy, right? It probably sounds crazy to people who aren't dealing with it. I daydream about it every single day. The day that I get skinny, what's going to happen? What changes? I've been daydreaming for a long time. Anyways, back to the being fat as an alternative lifestyle. Like, you know, there's definitely a fine line between being a little bit overweight, chubby, fat, obese. Like, they're all different terms that mean different things, right? I think you can easily be fairly healthy and be a little bit overweight. I think most people are at that point, at least here in America. You know, and then when you start getting into 30, 40, 50, 60, 70 plus pounds overweight, that's when, like, you got to really start worrying about health issues that come into play. And I just don't see how anyone would want to live that alternative lifestyle. I'm living it, and it's not a lifestyle that anyone should desire. I think that I do think that that's a cry for help in a lot of cases where people just don't know how to get out of it, so they're trying to find a way to normalize it, which, like I said, I think normalizing being kind to each other should be the priority, and shaming isn't a kind thing to do. But also normalizing something that is very risky isn't the right thing to do either. Do I have answers for it? Yes and no. Do I have fixes? Sure. I know how we can fix things. Do I have the power to fix them? No, absolutely not. We do have to be stricter on our, I don't, is it the CDC who controls what food is good and bad? That needs to be looked at. We have to be doing better at teaching. Parents who are having kids need to be way more responsible with what they're feeding their kids and allowing their kids to eat. Like, I mean, not even thinking about like obesity, but the amount of hormones that get consumed at young ages now, like, and you can see how kids are developing younger and younger. Like, that's another whole scary thing that I don't even. Yeah, that's concerning. But there has to be universal education. There has to be more people coming out and talking about how awful this is. You know, I don't know. I'm sure there are people. Like, okay, I'm gonna put. I wish I had the name, but I saw something that really made me upset the other day. And usually I don't shit talk too much, aside from some fun stuff. But there's a overweight gentleman on TikTok who makes some low impact workout videos, and his plan is to make some gym clothing that fits fat people. That's cool. But he had the audacity to go after some companies because they don't make his size of clothing. What? And people were cheering for him. Other fat people were cheering for him. And I'm sitting here like, but why should a business have to cater to your bad decisions if it doesn't make them the money they want. What? Am I crazy? Or is that ridiculous? Shopping sucks. Don't get me wrong. I fucking hate shopping for clothes as a fat person. But should I blame clothing companies for not making my size? No. It is my own problem that can be fixed if I took care of it. And my blood doesn't boil a lot because I'm usually really laid back with shit. Unless I'm playing my Rage Quit series. Slight little plug. Sorry. I usually don't even ever read comments or get into anything like that, but I saw that video and I was like, what in the fuck? How is that even an opinion to have? I don't know. Maybe he's just very naive and doesn't understand how business works. I don't know. But that blew my mind. I think at the end of the day, being fat is bad. I kind of wanted to end the video there, but I won't. It sucks. I personally don't know anyone in my life who enjoys it. It's a constant struggle filled with depression and misery that we all put ourselves through because we're either too lazy or whatever reason we don't want to do it, but we know that it's the right thing to do if we want to live longer. I think the majority of this is the fat shaming thing is super hot topic right now. I wanted to give my 2 cents as a fat person. I don't think shaming's going to do anything. I think it's just going to cause more of a problem. Maybe someone has a good point on why they think shaming works. I think that in a world today, I think shaming would have worked in the 60s, 70s, and 80s where it did, where most people were vastly more skinny. Going into the 90s with the changing of food and allowing of really unhealthy food at cheap prices, and then the boom of us not really needing to leave our house and more people choosing to not be actively social outside of the internet. Like, all you're going to do with shaming is put more and more people in that boat of not wanting to go out and do stuff because it's easier to not go out and do stuff. You know, I think there's going to be more fat people post COVID. I think there's more fat people now during COVID than there ever has been. I think that's just going to continue. And I think the more people that get shamed, the more that trend's going to continue where they're like, well, fuck, I can just live at home. I can work at home. I can have food ordered. I don't need to go out and be social with anyone if people are just going to be rude. And it's just going to build that barrier of higher and higher of people not being able to get along. And I think that's another weight on the horse's back of this crazy world that we're trying to traverse here in America, of no one liking each other and everyone being at each other's throats. I know it's a small thing to even think about, but a lot of people are fat here in America, and the more that divide builds, the more it's just not a positive, you know? And like I said earlier, if you really have that strong of opinion about fat people, why aren't you having the genuine conversations with them instead of just being, hey, fat fuck, or whatever it is that you want to do? But I think that's going to be it for this video. I didn't cry. I thought I was going to cry, because I don't know. It's a topic it's made me really uncomfortable. I was hyperventilating before even making this video, because, you know, it's painfully obvious, and it sucks. It sucks to hate yourself. Thanks for watching, guys. Peace.